You were sleeping with them. You were cooking their meals. You cared for them more than any of the people that was standing around them in the first place. And they had the audacity to come back to you and say, well, you ain't legally connected to them anyway. Do you even want to have that as a potential of a problem? Do you? Do you? So I suggest to you really closely think about some are saying, oh, you can just move in with them. You can move in with them, is what they're trying to say. Oh, you can move in with them, but you're in your quarters, they're in their quarters. You're going through marriage counseling and preparing for your marriage, and then once the wedding occurs and the licenses are signed, then you have sex. As to the other one that is saying, oh, you're going to move in with them, you're going to have sex with them, and the sex is going to be the thing that's going to give y'all the legal right to have connection and all legal documents. You're like, oh, we're just going to have these legal documents. A documentation to say, oh, this person has right. But it was something interesting. I was listening to somebody's video recently, and they were making the point that when the person is married to you, especially those of you that are called to high-profile marriages, you have legal right to go in their stead or proxy to events, to things that they can't go to. Maybe they have to be out of town because they're doing a show or they're filming a movie or they're doing this, but you're still in town and the person had a gala that they were supposed to go to that was for, maybe they had a nonprofit or what have you. And they're like, well, we needed them. And it's like, but you're their wife, so you can stand in their proxy and oversee the event. They have a award show for whatever it is. This person could be a real estate agent and you need to go pick up their award or what have you. Community Leader Award. Guess what? You can do that because you're married to them. See, the Serpent is right now bringing forth a level of confusion by saying, oh, you just move in with them and sleep with them and then that's all right. You will get married later. Will you? Will you? Remember what I said in the previous video where I talked about the two people were living in separate homes, and because they were living in separate homes, the woman made the decision, oh, I like my single life and I'm gonna just do me for a while. And the guy said, I don't want to do me. I want to get married. Do you want to go into this situation and not be protected? People are saying, oh, well, you're spiritually connected. You've been spiritually connected to them all this time and you ain't been with them. So you just saying, oh, we're going to spiritually be connected. We're going to just move in with each other. And because we had sex, that's going to be the solidifier between the two of us. Yes. Consummation. Sexual consummation. But that's consummation. You need the inheritance. And I'm not saying inheritance because, oh, you need the money that they got. If I was a money-hungry woman that was after gold, I could have been out there doing whatever the hell I wanted to do. I've never been that woman. I never dated a person before because I liked the fact that they had money. The last person I was with ain't have that much money at all. I'm not after ain't nobody's money. Matter of factly, I work very hard to sit with the Lord and find out what He wants from me for my own stuff, because I did not want to have to kiss nobody's behind and beg anybody for money. If you want to willingly give it to me, bless Jesus for you. I'm going to sow in honor in your name. Blessed be to Jesus. But guess who takes care of me? God. If the person's in my life, that's because of the fact God sent them. If God ain't sent them, get the hell out of my life. I'm sorry. Because you're going to eventually become a headache if you're not sent from God. Much love to you as my brother and sister. But if you ain't sent from God, that means somebody sent you. And it wasn't Jesus. So you gonna bring me more headache and heartache. We ain't playing no games. We ain't letting serpents up in between what God's trying to build with technicalities, because He'll use those same technicalities to prevent you from being able to put your hands on the inheritance. Oh, well, they was just sleeping together before they got actually married, and because of the fact that there's a legality of the fact that y'all done got no marriage license. But I have his children. You know, people that are married and they still ain't get no money from that person because of the fact that that person didn't sign nothing over to them. Perfect example, Bill Gates. I remember I was watching a documentary on years ago. I think it was VH1 did a documentary talking about Bill Gates and all the millions and millions of dollars that he had. And they were talking about his will, and they were saying, oh, he's not signing any of his money or assets or inheritances over to his children or his wife. I was like, excuse me. He's like, they ain't getting nothing. It's like he got millions upon millions of dollars, and I think if he signed anything over, it was like a couple $100,000. He ain't setting no trust up for him. He said, I'm giving all of my money away. I think he was giving a portion of it away, and then it was something for something else. But, yeah. So, even with that said, look at that right there. You could be married to the person and have legal document of being their wife. If they don't have the document saying that you inherit this, meaning technically the more important document is to have is the will. But there must be something that proves you are the inheritor if anything happens to that person. Something. And you must be able to show proof that you're the person that has the right to inherit that thing. So you want to sit up there and sign all these documents, but there's no main proof document. Because that's what a marriage license really is. It's a legally binding contract between two individuals. Can that person be signed off? Yeah. They have to be talked out of being talked away from that signing. Meaning, because think about it, life insurance, think about assets, think about all of these things. If the person has acquired a large amount of money on their own, there are some people that are saying, I just want the money. I'm the type of person, you made that money, That's your career. That's what have you. If we have children together, blessed be to Jesus, we had children. Yes, I will hope that you would set up a trust for your children. But I ain't sitting up here begging you for anything. If it's not in the Lord's will for you to cover me, God's going to cover me. Remember Xerxes when he was in his bedchamber, and Esther had everybody in the kingdom, or all the Jews, praying with her as she set out the edict for the 3-day fast. And Xerxes could not sleep that entire time. Some of these situations it's a level of protection. It's a protected inheritance for the children. It's a protected thing like that. Some of these men have not been able to sleep because of the fact that the Lord has kept them awake in relation to what they are supposed to do. And they must legally set up everything for you. And it's going to be most important that all T's and all I's are dotted. Why am I gung-ho about this? When I was a child, I'm going to bring this up for legal documentation purposes. When I was a child, I was adopted. And in that adoption, there was a different name on my birth certificate. The way that they did it was that the person that, there was a whole bunch of stuff, but the person went into the hospital and they told the nurse to put this name on the birth certificate when there was no name on the birth certificate in the first place. They acquired me from the hospital and took me back to their home. This person actually had no right to have me. I'm getting deep here. Person had no right to have me legally, but they put the name on the birth certificate and they put their name as the father on the birth certificate because I was in the hospital for a period of time. They had to come and get me from this person's house, but that name was on the birth certificate. Now, with the legality of it, it was court, it was a whole bunch of stuff. I was given to a family member, but the name had been on the birth certificate. They were trying to change it because they didn't want that name on that birth certificate. Some documents were filed. I remember being around during the time that these documents were filed to have my name changed on 2 separate occasions. So, years pass. I'm a teenager. The person that did this is another reason why legal documents are important. She passed away. Okay? And when she passed away, it caused a problem because there was not enough legal documentation of proof that the name I had was my name, but it was on all of my schooling records, all of everything. This name is the name I have now. It was no record. If I showed you my original birth certificate, you can literally see a line striked through the name that was there and my name written above it. Okay? And it's even a thing on the back of it that says that this is a legally binding document in the name, blah, 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 blah. It was stamped on the back of the document as proof. Now, with that being said, when it came time and they got more stringent with, right around this time, they became more stringent with birth certificates, social security cards, and IDs. And guess what? In order to acquire your birth certificate, you need an identification card and your social security card. If your social security card's name, it doesn't have your name on it, you got a problem. But in order to acquire a change of name on a social security card, guess what? You need your birth certificate and an ID. Guess what? In order to acquire an ID, you need your social security card and your birth certificate. Guess what? Because my name wasn't right on none of these, I couldn't acquire it. It took me a year and a half. And it wasn't because of me that this happened. It was somebody we called, and the person managed to find out about the case. We had stacks of documents, had to drive all the way to Annapolis, had to drive all the way here and there in order to get all of these papers put together because we had to prove I was the person that needed the name change because the name on the record was completely different. And I could not go to college because of that. It was holding me up in every phase of my life. I could not move forward till this name was figured out. Birth certificate, social security card, ID. Couldn't get no ID. You can't go nowhere nowadays without an ID to prove who you are. ID, passport, any of these things. It took a year and a half. And somebody had to call me from the birth certificate office. And I think it was the courts in Annapolis. And I had to explain to them what we had gone through. And this person, thank God, it had to have been God himself that made this person call us because we had given up at this point. I am not lying to you. We had given up fighting this fight for this because we didn't know what to do. The person called us and said, I don't know why you've been riding around trying to gather all of this information. I need you to just simply go to Staples, fax me all of these documents that you've been working with, and I'm going to send you your birth certificate, okay? And that's exactly what that woman did. I don't know who she is. His dad couldn't tell you what her name was. It was God that had to have sent that person into my life because I wouldn't have had my birth certificate. I would have been able to do any of the things that I've been able to do in the past 17 to 18 years of my life. If it hadn't been for that woman calling me back and saying, none of this was your problem. We're going to take care of this from this point forward. Do you want to be that person? You've been married to the person for 17, 18, 20, 30, 40 years. You are in the middle of your grieving process and somebody's sitting there trying to say, oh, you weren't legally ever married to this person? And you don't have no documented proof. We need X, Y, Z, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. But I was married to them. I had their children. I had their this. We were married. We lived in the house together. I had the ring. I had the this. I would rather have all of the ducks in a row lined up, legal paperwork, documentation, all of it, including the marriage license, because I've been through too damn much. I'm sorry. I have to put it that way because I've been through too damn much in my life for somebody in a higher up position to come back at me at a later date after I've bore this person's kids, after I worked in a business with them, after I've done all of this, for you to come back to me and say, we ain't seen no marriage license, so we ain't got to give you a damn thing. Excuse me? How would you feel? Oh, we just slept together and we were living together. I mean, yeah, y'all just slept together. We were living together. Y'all were living together, so we don't have to give you anything from their finances. We can keep that in escrow. Oh, let me add this just to make also a point of her saying this. When my mother passed away, the bank had told us that she had $147 in her bank account. We were grieving at the time, and there were things that were needed in expenses in preparation for her funeral, including getting the urn for her after having passed. There was $147 that would have actually helped us during that season. Oh, we can't give that to you because of XYZ reasons. Because legally there's no documentation. Go file a document showing that you are the inheritors of the money, and we'll release the finances to you. I'm her daughter. I'm standing there with her husband. And this was $147. What if your husband got $147 million? And you're in between of them putting you out of your house that y'all was in together for years. Oh, you don't have a marriage license or any type of thing. You don't have a documented proof to say that you have any legal right to this in that marriage, the money that y'all had during that time frame. Oh, and while we talking about that, the money y'all had during the time frame, meaning if y'all did business acquisitions together, the rights to the monies made, because remember, when two people are married, if there's a document of any type of sort, they try to split it 50-50, give the person 50% of their assets. But if there's no documentation, and if at all they can come up with any type of document to say that you have no legal right to any of their finances, even the money that y'all made together, it becomes a muddy situation, because it's like, do you still have right to that? If there wasn't no proof of y'all being married, it's like saying there's no proof of partnership for your legal business. You won't fight that fight? Think about that. Look at what happened to me and my father. That was $147. What is $147 million? What if it's $147 billion? Assets, cars, houses, things that belong to your children. Oh, well, you don't got this document, and if you don't bring in X, Y, and Z, and at the time I was still dealing with the name situation. I had no ID. So because I had no ID, because this was during that 2-year period, guess what? I couldn't even file the paperwork. Don't get messed up on your inheritance because you want to just lay down in the bed with this person. I'm going to lay down in the bed with this person. I'm going to fix their dinner. I'm going to do this. Guess what, honey? There was a woman that was before you that was doing all that. They were in their house. They were laying up in their bed. And they were fixing food for them. And they were wifeying it up. And they still ain't married to him. You want to be number 2 or 3 or 15? What makes you different? And some, they even had the legal acumen that they're like, I'm going to let you take care of this stuff for me. So maybe they did have a legal covering of legal documentation in relation to that person, because they knew that that person had asset understanding. So they allowed them to have that even signed off on it. But what makes you different than the one that they were just laying up in the bed with? Oh, we're spiritually ordained to meet each other. We're spiritually ordained. We're spiritually. Spiritually, I am his wife. Say that if something happens to them. In the spirit, we were married. We were married in the spirit. Them lawyers are going to turn around and look at you. Yeah, we need some documents in order before we can release this money to you. I don't care if you had 5 kids with them. And we want to do a blood test to even prove that them kids was his. They all look like him. You don't know that? People get real strange. Why do I say people get real strange? I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you something that's been happening to me. This happened to me a couple times. And this is another reason why I'm bringing this up. This wasn't even supposed to be part of this conversation, but I believe that the Lord is trying to show something to you so that y'all ain't out here doing something stupid. Okay? Let's see what happened. Last night I got an email. For the past week, and you heard me say this a couple of times, I've been fighting for the past 2 months to get my phone returned to me. I filed a complaint saying that something happened to my phone and I needed a replacement. Now, I haven't had to pay for this phone for years. That's the type of phone it is. And they were like, oh. And they're the ones that cut it, because I was having some trouble with the phone. The phone was running hot. I called the company, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think they did it on purpose. And they were like, oh, we just have to reset your system. Let me just reset the system. When they hit the reset of the system, it cut the phone off. And I was like, okay, can y'all send me the replacement? They're like, we're going to send you a replacement. Don't worry about it. Just give us the address. I give them the address. They say, we'll send you a replacement within a week. For the past 5 weeks, I've been back and forth with these people about this replacement. Emails. Oh, can you send us this document? Can you go on this site and fill out this information as proof of residency and all of this kinds of stuff? A whole bunch of red tape spinning me around in relation to this cell phone. Now I'm going to go backwards. In 2006, or might have been 8 or 9, we'll say about 2011. I'm going to round it up. I was working as a work study student for my college at the time. And I had a prepaid card. I filled out for the prepaid card, got approved for the prepaid card, so on and so forth. And they sent the prepaid card. I put my direct deposit for my check, meaning this is the money that I had, was going to that check, going to that card. 4 weeks later, I go to spend the money to buy lunch at my job. There's no money on the card. I have to call them back. They tell me, oh, the person put your money on somebody else's card. Follow me right here. They put your money on somebody else's card. And in putting your money on somebody else's card, you're going to have to show proof. It's like, excuse me? Yeah, we need to prove that it's you in order to send the money back to you and put it on your correct card. I had to call them 15 times easily in order to call back and deal with people and back and forth. We need you to bring this type of information in order to prove. Can you give us the routing number? We need the direct deposit, this, that, and the other. All this, blah, 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 blah. Finally, I don't even know how I got the one person that said, oh, we're going to look into this of just taking the money out of that person's account and dropping it into your account. By this time, I had been working over 12 weeks, and the 8 weeks of paychecks had gone to the wrong card. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. The card wasn't given to nobody. The last week I'm supposed to be receiving, when I finally got a hold of this person, they're like, oh, we're just going to drop the money on there. They dropped the money on there, but I was like, I got another check coming in because it's been going to that routing number. They're like, oh, we're going to terminate the card, but we can't terminate it if you have one more check coming. When you receive that check, call us and tell us, and we'll have the check moved over. I was like, okay, fine. They fixed the problem. About a week later, as soon as the check is supposed to hit the card, I call them back and say, hey, I got the proof that the check hit the card. I need you to reverse the payment and move it to my card. They're like, oh, somebody has their card now, so that $256, we can't give that to you. Excuse me, that's my money. Oh, you can file a police report and do this, and the other thing, and we'll be able to then try to refurbish that money, but we can't give that to you. Oh, and before I finish, my mother's life insurance policy, we didn't get none of that either because she had paid up 15 payments. The 16th payment was not received, and they were trying to give us the runaround, trying to say, oh, you can't have that because there was a last payment that was not received. So, and we're calling, it's like, well, we're the beneficiaries on the policy. There wasn't a last payment received, so we can't give you none of that. $2,500 around the time that she passed away. So all of these things are happening all at one time. What is my point? My point is you need documentation because you don't want to get stuck in a scenario that something happens to your spouse and you have no support from the people around you to protect you. Documents, protections, all of these types of things. Backup people. People will stop. I tell you, I will call those companies and try to get these financial things taken care of, and they will act like I had 5 heads. I'm telling